Have you ever heard the story of Cinderella? Not the quick version, but the real tale. Well, let me tell you, it begins with a kind gentleman who, for his second wife, married the proudest woman you could ever imagine. This new stepmother had two daughters, just as haughty as she was. The gentleman also had a daughter, a young girl of unparalleled goodness and sweetness, a nature she inherited from her own mother. The moment the wedding was over, the stepmother showed her true colors. She couldn't stand the good qualities of her stepdaughter because they only made her own daughters seem more unpleasant. She forced the poor girl into the dirtiest chores, scrubbing dishes, cleaning rooms, and sleeping in a cold, lonely garret on a straw bed. Meanwhile, her sisters lived in luxury, with fine rooms and giant mirrors. The girl bore it all patiently, never daring to complain to her father, who was completely controlled by his new wife. When her work was done, she would sit in the chimney corner among the cinders. This earned her the nickname Cinderbreech, but the younger, slightly less rude sister called her Cinderella. Despite her ragged clothes, Cinderella was 100 times more beautiful than her sisters in their rich gowns. One day it was announced that the king's son was hosting a grand ball, and all persons of fashion were invited. The two sisters were thrilled and immediately began planning their outfits. This meant more work for Cinderella, who had to iron their linen and plait their ruffles. All they talked about was what they would wear. The eldest wanted her red velvet suit, and the youngest her gold-flowered manteau with a diamond stomacher. They even called Cinderella for fashion advice because she had excellent taste. As she helped them, they taunted her. "Cinderella, wouldn't you love to go to the ball?" "Oh, you're just teasing me," she'd say. "It's not for someone like me." "You're right," they'd sneer. People would laugh to see a Cinderbreech at a ball. Finally, the night of the ball arrived. The sisters, laced into their gowns so tightly they could barely breathe, departed for the court. Cinderella watched them go until they were out of sight, and then she broke down, crying. Suddenly, her godmother appeared. Seeing her tears, she asked what was wrong. "I wish I could. I wish I could," Cinderella sobbed, unable to finish. Her godmother, who was actually a fairy, smiled. "You wish you could go to the ball, don't you?" "Why, yes," Cinderella whispered. "Well," said the fairy, "be a good girl, and I will make it happen." First, she sent Cinderella to the garden for a pumpkin. With a tap of her wand, it turned into a magnificent golden coach. Next, she found 6 mice in a trap and, with a little tap for each, turned them into a fine set of 6 dapple grey horses. A large rat from another trap became a jolly coachman with the smartest whiskers you've ever seen. 6 lizards from behind the watering pot became 6 footmen in splendid liveries. "There," said the fairy, "an equipage fit for a ball." But Cinderella cried, "Must I go in these nasty rags?" Her godmother simply touched her with the wand, and her clothes became a stunning gown of gold and silver, covered in jewels. On her feet she placed a pair of the prettiest glass slippers in the world. But there was one very important rule. "You must not stay past midnight," her godmother warned. If you stay one moment longer, your coach will become a pumpkin again, your horses mice, and your clothes will turn back to rags. Cinderella promised she would leave before midnight and drove away. Overjoyed at the ball, the king's son was told a mysterious princess had arrived. He ran to greet her, leading her into the hall. A hush fell over the room. The dancing stopped, the music ceased, as everyone stared at the breathtaking beauty of the unknown guest. The prince was completely enchanted and danced with her all evening. He was so captivated he didn't eat a single bite of food. Cinderella, being kind, even went to sit with her sisters and shared the oranges the prince had given her. They were amazed, having no idea who she was. As she was talking, she heard the clock strike 11:45. She quickly curtsied to the company and hurried away. The next evening, she returned to the ball, dressed even more magnificently. The prince never left her side, and she was so happy she completely forgot her godmother's warning. Suddenly, the clock began to strike 12. She jumped up and fled like a deer. The prince followed, but couldn't catch her. In her haste, she left behind one of her glass slippers, which the prince picked up and treasured. Cinderella arrived home out of breath in her old rags, with nothing left of her finery but the other little slipper. A few days later, the king's son proclaimed he would marry the woman whose foot fits the tiny glass slipper. They tried it on princesses and duchesses, but it fit no one. When it was brought to the two sisters, they tried with all their might to squeeze their feet into it, but it was no use. Cinderella, who was watching, laughed and said, "Let me see if it will not fit me." Her sisters burst out laughing. But the gentleman trying the slipper saw how beautiful Cinderella was and said it was only fair that she should try. He sat her down, and the slipper slid onto her foot perfectly, as if it were made of wax. Their astonishment grew even greater when Cinderella pulled the matching slipper from her pocket. At that moment, her godmother appeared and, with a touch of her wand, transformed Cinderella's rags into a gown more magnificent than ever before. Her sisters finally recognized her as the beautiful princess from the ball and threw themselves at her feet, begging for forgiveness. Cinderella, as good as she was beautiful, forgave them with all her heart. She was taken to the prince, who found her more charming than ever, and married her a few days later. Cinderella gave her two sisters lodgings in the palace, and even found them husbands among the great lords of the court. Thanks for listening to this classic tale. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.